Hey everyone, welcome back to part two. This is the one where we just actually got through talking about Xbox, and now we're going to talk about the PlayStation 4 E3, and basically they're coming to fruition party. They finally seem like they figured it out, and they're coming with both guns blazing. I know it sounds very cliche and very stupid to say it that way, but I mean they did. Did they
Four
not?
guns blazing.
Four guns blazing. You know, uh, I don't even know what to say. It's just they had a standing ovation, right? Didn't they have like a standing ovation whenever they announced like the pricing and things of that nature?
Yeah, as soon as they started mentioning Sharon, how there's no DRM, and all that stuff, everybody was going crazy.
They basically just gave everybody what they wanted. So, what one thing I want to point out too is that we're going to have as our part three Nintendo, and we're going to talk about the other developer games. Before I want to tell you that before we get further into the PlayStation thing, but again, this is Mike Games on my left. We have Andrick on my right, and I am Hill Hil. Welcome back. So to start off with, Mike, what did you think of the PlayStation 4 E3?
I mean, that blew my mind away. I mean, I'm an Xbox guy, but after the Xbox announcement, it just totally bummed me out. And then Sony, they just blew it out of the park. I mean, they blew it out of the park.
Okay, they blew it out of the park so much that you were an Xbox person and you pre-ordered the PlayStation 4 after the announcement.
Yeah, right after the announcement, I'm like, "Where's my computer? All right, I need to pre-order it."
So fed up.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I pre-ordered it just like that.
You just brought a tear to like some Sony person's face. So like, yes.
But yeah, I think
Okay, go down the line. What impressed you? What was it that impressed you?
the price, $399. Yeah, I know Andrick was saying it's not going to include the eye. I don't care about the eye.
Most people don't.
Yeah, so I mean the price, that's awesome.
And that's the most important thing is the gamers. I mean, that historically, that's what shows has won in the past is pricing.
And I think Sony learned from their mistakes. I mean,
Right.
last time they really overpriced it, and they're like, shit, we need to catch up now.
Right.
And now they just put it at just the sweet spot. It's underneath Microsoft's Xbox One. I mean, everything they said, it was just like home run.
And let's not forget, like the processor and all that is way better than Xbox.
Right.
Too.
Good point. Yeah, processor's better. The RAM is faster.
It's a smaller box.
They
Too.
still have Blu-ray.
It's a smaller black box.
Right. Right. It doesn't look like the Beta Max that the Xbox One does.
I
right?
think it had the same color scheme. It was the
flat black with shiny.
and- yeah.
No, you know what it actually put me in the mind of is like the original PlayStation 2, but kind of like they changed kind of the design to it. That's what it really put me in the mind of, and I thought that was kind of creative. I am really impressed by it. But before we get to me, I mean, what else did you see that you liked though? Any games that kind of stood out?
Besides the price, I mean, they're not always online.
Okay.
I could lend Andrick a game.
Right.
There aren't any restrictions.
You can play used games.
So
Well,
I mean,
let's be fair though. It's really up to the developer. Just like we said before, it's the same thing they have now.
yeah, it's the same thing as
Yeah.
now. But
It's
I mean,
it's left up to the.
I could still also play used games though. I mean, that's gonna be the big thing. Also, I don't have to get rid of my GameFly subscription.
Right.
I could borrow games. I could lend games. That's I think one of the big things for gamers also just lending games. See if you like it, go buy it on your own.
Right. And then play against your friend online.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And like I said earlier, I mean, with the military,
Mhm.
I mean, I think this is also going to be a good system for them since they're
Right.
not always connected, and they can play wherever.
Yeah, they can be able to
region
play.
free.
That's interesting. And on top of that, like I really enjoy like the Gaikai principle of it, and they're really going to be pushing that, and that's very unique. That I'm surprised that Xbox decided not to include in their system. Go and find some kind of developer that can actually do something like that, where you are sharing and streaming the same content that you're playing online with your friends. We're in a social networking generation.
Right.
And that's obviously a very important thing with the success of Facebook, Twitter, and all these other lesser ones like, I don't know, whoever.
Right. Well, that kind of being said, and I just want to lay out like, hey, it's Sony's the trophy wife right now. She's a Japanese trophy wife I've always wanted. That being said, she has her problems because just like anybody that's just making it really look that good. When you include Gaikai,
Right.
when you include anything that's online, like their social networking and stuff like that, essentially it's something you're going to need online connection with
Right,
that stuff.
right,
And that's just I mean, it's nice and you don't have to have it, and I think that's where they're winning their huge points. But if you want to utilize it, the system's full potential,
mhm,
you're going to need PlayStation Plus. You're going to need some kind of connection to the internet, and to play those games, like even the like, hey, they showed that demo of the guy playing the game. It's like, join me right now and download the game,
right,
or in just the multiplayer one. That right there is digital rights.
right,
Like,
right.
you know, like
Leave it up to the developers. Yeah,
that's right, and that's what they're doing. Like, hey, you can buy it from our store, but all of a sudden you don't have the physical disc. You're digitally downloading it, and you can't lend that to a friend.
overall, what you're saying is like people like options. Gamers like options.
It's showing like, hey, you can get the basic system. A lot of
Right.
people want that, but at the same time, if you want to utilize everything, you're gonna have to somehow submit
Right.
to DRM. So,
Right. And you can just sense how comfortable they were whenever they're presenting everything. They were like, "Yeah, we got this one."
oh,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
much easier being on the other side of that
Right.
because they were on the bad side
Yeah.
at one time.
Right.
So.
They learn
Right.
from their mistakes. So,
Right.
Right. And they were just pumped coming after watching WWDC. They were happy after watching that, and then they came and presented themselves, and they were like, "Yeah, this is going to be a good time for us." Do you think? Here's a good question. Do you think there's anything that they're worried about as far as Xbox One?
something that they didn't really go into detail actually was the multiplayer. So if you want to play online, you're going to actually have to pay for a PlayStation Plus subscription.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting.
I don't know if that's necessarily the case because they said like I guess full access to online stuff, which leads me to believe like
It's the same like how it is now.
yeah, so
Well-
you don't have cross chat or something like that, but you can still play online. You don't have all the options there.
Because
So
from what I read earlier, they were actually saying that that's the one thing they didn't leave. Or
They didn't
say.
mention,
They
right?
didn't mention.
and
was-
I'm almost positive they're probably leaving it up to developers.
I think they just overlooked it. I think they were just kind of wrapped up in the excitement because the one thing that they were so busy stressing out is that your PlayStation Plus can carry over between different consoles. That they just forgot to say, oh yeah, and you can still play it online for free.
And well, no, it came out that you're gonna have to pay.
Oh
You're
really?
gonna have to get a PlayStation Plus in order to play online against multiplayer games. Which I mean, it's not really a bad thing. I mean,
Right.
people do it now with Xbox Live.
Right.
Right.
Now they're gonna have to do it with PlayStation Plus. Not a big deal, I don't think.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Also, what my favorite was the head of Sony Entertainment. Sony Entertainment. Sony like the movies and music. I forgot his name. I remember his face every time he shows up. I remember his face. But he's like, "Yeah, we're coming out with something. It's going to come. Thank you, everybody." And then basically walks off stage, and that's what he's saying. And like, what?
Drop the mic.
Yeah, he just shows a bunch of movies in the back like that we've already seen. I'm like, okay, whatever. Good for you, bro. And aren't they allowing like that people can like stream Redbox now too and Flixster?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Redbox looks there.
'Cause-
I'm sure HBO Go will come out, and pretty much everything that you can get will come out on that. So.
I thought that was kind of interesting. They're basically saying, hey, we're catering to gamers first, and we understand that it can still be used as a home theater system. That's not going to be our focal point because we know who our main buyers are.
Right.
How about from a developer standpoint? Do you feel like it's a stronger medium to go to rather than being an Xbox One?
Well, it does seem like they are, kind of this time around helping out the indie gamers, like we were talking about earlier.
Right.
And I think you actually brought that up last time that in their first press conference, that was the big thing that they kind of wanted to point out that this is for developers. This is a system for.
Yeah, and I watched the old press conference before I started watching the new one, and it still holds a lot of things. Like, they went and asked the developers, what do you want to see in a box, and what would you like to see that would help you out make the best games? And they were like, okay, so they checked off all the boxes that they needed
Right.
to check off,
Right.
and a lot of people were saying that there weren't as many games as Microsoft. That's probably true. There weren't as many what's it called? I can't think of the word now. But exclusives
Okay.
to PlayStation as Xbox did. which I think they have the same idea as other companies out there. You know, whether it's Google or Apple or anybody else, it's like you're going to if you want to play in our playground, here are the tools,
Right.
and you just go for it.
Just
But
go
we're
with
not
it.
we're not going to pay you to be on our system.
And it wasn't complicated. It's supposedly it's not a complicated system to
Right.
learn compared to like PlayStation 3.
Right.
Oh, people had to go and take like IBM classes or something just to relearn that type of technology just to make games for PlayStation 3.
Exactly, and the biggest thing is like Skyrim.
Mhm.
They had to send out a team just to help them
Right.
come out with the expansion packs for PlayStation.
Right.
Now that's not going to be an issue because you know, obviously they're catering to that crowd. So it's just exciting, you know.
And that probably means more for indie developers as well because
Oh.
you're going to see a lot of content. Now.
Oh, for sure. Because I mean, I think the biggest thing is that they're not charging the indie developers to develop for their
Right.
system, and Xbox is.
Is exactly.
And so, you know, that's a huge selling point for a lot of developers out there. And so,
Okay, well let's start from the top. How did you feel about the PlayStation conference?
oh man, I loved it. Like it was. I mean, and I've always been a fan of PlayStation press conferences. They make me feel like I'm walking into the future.
Mhm.
You know, and what they're going to deliver me. Their points are always like, here's what we're going to show you, and by the time this is over, you're going to love us.
Right.
And I feel like that's exactly what they did. And they dropped the mic so many times during that press conference. I mean, they just pulled out mics to their pocket and started dropping them.
They started raining mics.
Yeah, basically, they just started throwing them. And I mean, there were so many good things that I really, really loved about it. You know, they're giving their first game that they're giving away is Drive Club,
Right.
which is something that
I'm really excited about.
yeah, and they didn't even mention they were giving it away for free until the end, and everybody was already excited about it.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not a huge car driver and plan, but you know, if it's free, I'll try.
I'll try it out. Right. Exactly.
Right, and if it suckers me in, you know, that's great. Their exclusives, you know, coming out this year aren't really that huge. Um,
Well, it seems like it's like their typical PlayStation exclusive, like Gran Turismo. You
Yeah.
know, I'm slipping on some others, but it's just like the ones that I kind of expected.
yeah, I mean, there's always anytime there's a new system, there's going to be some type of car game.
Right.
Yeah.
As it should, just to show off the
shows
graphic.
I'm surprised they didn't show a boxing game because that's usually in there too, to show all the sweat and the blood.
I don't even think EA was like present.
They
Yeah,
showed the UFC. I guess that's close enough.
yeah. I mean, it seems like EA is more Xbox and Ubisoft is more PlayStation. So they,
Ooh, that's interesting.
Um,
I've never seen it that way.
and it just kind of seems that way to me. I
Right.
could be the only person. But you know, there were a lot of things like Knack looks fun.
Yeah, I think NAC is because NAC is going to be like their baby, basically showcasing how well that actual system can actually go, how well it can actually perform.
Yeah,
So I think that's kind of interesting.
it reminds me of like a Rayman game, like you know, from like PlayStation 2 came out, just a
Right.
platformer that just kind of looks fun. You know?
Right,
It
right.
doesn't take itself too seriously. Second Son was coming out next quarter, I
Mhm.
think. So January, February, I'm thinking.
Right.
And that'll, you know, is that Sucker Punch?
No.
No.
No, you had it. I believe it's Sucker Punch
It's
because
Sucker
they,
Punch,
yeah,
okay.
it's the ones that make Infamous, and we're going to talk more about the developers
Yeah.
in the third part. Everyone,
And Killzone. Killzone was coming out, like Killzone. You know, it's
it was. You know what's interesting? Like Killzone is very. It looks awesome, but it's like every other Killzone game to me.
well, I see. Here's the difference. I think it's a complete. I feel like it's almost a reboot of Killzone
Really?
because Killzone was such a dark game.
Right.
It was, and the only thing you really could tell the bad guys was the red eyes.
Right.
The difference between this one, I feel it's so bright, and
Right.
it's in the future of Killzone, and you know, Killzone could be any other shooter,
Right.
but I feel like they're really trying to make it different this time,
Very different.
which I can applaud them for. It feels like a type of reboot for Killzone. So
Okay. Anything about the console design?
it's a box. It's a box that does its job, and even the PlayStation, it's a box that does it. I mean, the Xbox, it's a box that does its job.
Right.
And I don't care. It's flat, black, and shiny. They both are. One says Xbox, one says PlayStation. I mean, if you're really torn over the design of the box, I mean, I don't know. I'm more concerned about the controller, if anything.
Right.
I mean, it just went on and on. Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 14, 15, and Versus. I didn't understand the Japanese thing and all that.
I will have to say, I will point out, Square Enix came with it this time because you were making a lot of points that Square Enix needs to do something to add that relevance. And this is your chance to go on that rant of JRPGs making that return.
Yeah, they had a Tales game. I think it's coming out later this year, and then Final Fantasy.
With their Final Fantasy 15 and Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
3. Are you a Kingdom Hearts fan?
uh, uh, I am, and I'm not.
I know you're not, right?
I've always wanted to get into it. I just never did.
Yeah, I never got a
because of
chance
the
to
whole
play it, yeah.
turn-based.
Yeah, I never got a chance to play it, and I'll play RPGs.
It's action based.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's not turn based.
That's what it seems like for Final Fantasy 15. It looks like it's going to be action based.
Well, the thing is, they didn't talk about 14, but there was a big preview for 14,
Right.
which is an online game, and then 15 is coming out. They changed it from Versus to 15,
Right.
and so I mean, both very excited. I don't know anything about the Versus Final Fantasy side of things.
Mhm.
So if they're making it a 15 game, I'm hoping that it kind of pulls me into that universe, and so I can see what it's about.
Right. I'll go and say this since I'm going to be the only one that's interested in this. Like the whole showing NBA 2K14, I was like, yes, of course, it's to be expected. It's going to be there.
Was that the one with LeBron James?
Yeah,
or
where he-
something where he
well,
talked to himself.
Yeah, where he's talking to himself, and the LeBron James character looks like a Sesame Street character, you know, and, like Snuffleupagus or something. And I was just like, oh, this is so bad.
Well,
And
No, I'm sorry. I was actually going to say it was interesting. All those games that they showed, you know, the Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, the NBA, 2K14, but they're not exclusives to PlayStation. They're going to be on both consoles.
But I think the point and what won me over, and it's true, what you're saying, it's very true. I mean, besides Killzone and all that stuff, that God, did they make me feel like I wanted to play it on their system?
right.
I wanted to play it on PlayStation,
Right.
as opposed to Xbox.
They
which-
made it seem like if you want to play this game, you have to get a system.
Yeah, they very made it seem like it wasn't exclusive, even though it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, I do want to play that on a PlayStation game. Even the control, they changed it enough to where I may even like first-person shooters on PlayStation.
Right.
So that kind of won me over too.
Yeah. I think that's kind of interesting. And just the graphics is just ridiculous because when they were showing the old man skit, I know they were trying to do it for comedic purposes, but just
Oh, no.
wow, I couldn't differentiate. I couldn't figure out if it was at one point where I was like, are they showing the actor now, or are they still showing like the graphical like advancements?
It was
of
a
the
really
system?
cool line that they walked.
Yeah, and I thought that was really interesting. And I see what they were doing. They were just like, this is how badass you can actually make it if you really wanted to, developers.
Yeah, and I thought that was a really cool show that Quantum Dream had with Dark Sorcerer. But at first, I was like, wait, is this a game or what is this?
Right.
So it was that same old man from the demo.
Yeah, it was the same old man from the
Yeah.
demo. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's actually just a little short that I think they ended up premiering. It's 12 minutes long. It's a
Mm.
little short that Quantum Dream came out with just to show the power of the
Oh, okay, because I
PlayStation.
thought it was a game too.
Yeah, that's what I thought at first, but yesterday Quantum Dream came out with a 12-minute short. That's all it is. It's just showing the processing power of the PlayStation.
Right on.
Okay, that makes sense. Is anyone excited for Destiny?
Oh man, I was not in that ballpark
Oh,
for
really?
Destiny. It was like Bungie really needs to prove why I need to get this
Right.
game. And a lot of people are saying it just looks like Halo, and I understand that. But man, did I feel cool? They were like, my friend could join in, and then we joined in this public event.
Right.
I felt it was so epic.
Yeah.
It felt like I feel bad for Gearbox and Borderlands because it felt like what Borderlands 3 could eventually turn out to be.
Yeah,
You know, if they were developing something like that, but it seems like Destiny really joined into that because Borderlands' whole purpose is multiplayer game online, and you can just join in and play together against certain enemies, and you know, be a part of that narrative.
Right.
Destiny just took that and sprinkled their Halo in there, you know, and
and don't forget Activision. I think Activision was the other big part of that.
well,
so,
yeah, you know, well, I want to go at the developers first
Yeah.
before I get to the publisher.
Well, I have a feeling Activision actually had a lot to say with like because it very much felt like a Call of Duty type thing too.
In what way?
I mean, I don't know, just very the gunplay felt very much
Just
like
how it
Call of
played.
Duty, not very Halo-ish to me.
It felt more like the gunplay kind of felt like Borderlands to me because it's these obscure guns that
Mhm.
they're very powerful, but logically you don't know how they can be more powerful compared to
Yeah.
like Call of Duty. It's like
Yeah, but I just mean like the actual gunplay felt more like
oh, I see what you're saying.
like the actual gameplay felt more like Call of Duty than Halo.
When I was chatting with you guys online and talking to Greg, what I felt was interesting too is I was looking at the walk animation just on Destiny, and I know that may not be important to you guys, but the walk animation was just like ridiculous. It just felt so tight. I don't like typically like you'll see like walk animation like older Halo games or the Halo game before. It's just they're kind of scraping around, doing whatever. In Destiny, they seemed like they had added weight that they were actually physically in the environment.
Right.
And what made me draw more into it is because you're playing with another person, so it makes you feel more that you're actually together with other gamers.
Right.
I know that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just correlated walking animation to playing with other gamers.
Hey, you know
but
what?
that's
Correlate with that.
but it just felt like I am actually physically playing with another friend,
Right.
and you're bringing me into that world of Destiny, and that's what I'm really excited about. And I don't like Halo. I just never cared for it. I've played it. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of whimsical, it felt like whatever. People are like, Master Chief is greatest, whatever. I'm like, ooh, I don't care. And that's something I'm excited for too.
Right on.
What about Infamous Second Son? I know you're not a fan of Infamous, but
I try to like Infamous because I'm a big superhero freak, just like you are. But it's just something about it is that they take themselves too seriously and they try to be quirky a lot. It's just something about Infamous I just can't get into, and this one just didn't do it for me as well. Because it's an older brother and his younger brother's the one with the powers, and they see it as a condition, and he's like, "Well, I'm awesome," and he goes around and fights people, and like, I don't care. I just don't care.
Well, I've been a fan of Infamous. Like, it's one of those games that I want it to be so much more than what it is. And I've played both of them,
Right.
and even the Vampire one that came out in the second one. And it's very clunky, like when you're climbing up walls and all that. And I'm really hoping that they change some things with the gameplay. But I'm gonna buy it. Here's my money. I'll play it and I'll critique it to hell. So
Like, don't get me wrong, Sucker Punch. Like, I really do want to like it. It's probably not my niche. You got Andrew's money. He has it on the table.
Yeah.
I actually could probably get it.
You got to
And
sell
actually,
Mike.
I was trying to look up his name. I forgot his name. The main character looks just like Troy Baker.
It probably is
Voice.
Troy
It
Baker.
is. It's
Oh,
his
yeah.
voice. And,
Like, he doesn't have enough money doing voiceovers,
right?
He's already styling. He was over there styling the PlayStation again. What about? How did y'all feel about the whole showcase of the Assassin's Creed, the newer Assassin's Creed?
I'm really pumped for it. I don't know if I should wait to get Assassin's Creed 4 until the next gen
Right.
comes out, or if I should get it in October, get it on the current gen.
Right.
It looks really good.
Looks like Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, that's another thing I do want to point out, because it's like when they're showing him kind of walk through the island, following the person. I was like, Assassin's Creed, not really any different.
I feel like they need to maybe not
Change it
reboot
up a
it,
little bit.
not reboot it, but they need to add something because how many people are just like, yeah, it's Assassin's Creed. You like the last one? Here's some more Creed for you.
Assassin's Creed Pirates, and
Yeah.
and we know the next one's gonna be like Assassin's Creed Asia, and it's going to happen in Assassin's Creed Africa. Yeah,
Well, yeah, essentially they're gonna have to either drop the whole thing or reboot it in some major way. So, and I'm hoping they finally bring it into the future whenever they do. So.
I'm actually really excited about the whole pirates thing. It's
Are
interesting.
you?
Boom, booms. No, but I'm actually
get out.
Want want.
I'm excited, and it's interesting because it's almost like a prequel to Assassin's Creed 3. It's interesting
You're right.
because it's the grandfather
Right.
of Connor.
Spoiler.
Well, no, I think they made it known.
And
That's his
well,
grandfather.
also I do like the whole dynamic of the ship. That's
Yeah.
something that's never been exercised in a video game before.
Actually, they did the ship in the last one, right?
Yeah, they did the ship in Assassin's Creed 3, and it seems like they refined it in this one.
Yeah, it does seem like
Okay.
they made it a lot easier.
But it's not like wasn't it like more in a controlled environment in the third one, and this one was kind of more open.
This one seems more open world since
Right.
it's dealing with pirates. So
Right.
yeah, that's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
Seems like it's gonna be a healthy mix of the two. Like in Assassin's Creed 3, it was just kind of like a side mission. There was maybe one mission that forced you be on the ship, and then the others were, just side
Right,
missions.
right. Yeah, and I think that's what's really cool. Yeah, I mean, PlayStation really came with it. We talked about a lot of positives, a lot of good games that are going to be there. Any negatives? Any?
Like I said, earlier, is that I feel like they left a lot of the negatives on the floor. Like they didn't talk about it. Like,
You think that's something that's going to be picked up by us and the
oh
media
yeah,
and
I
the
mean,
news?
just think about it. To utilize it, you're going to have to be online. And
Right.
if you want to download any like indie developers, obviously they're not going to release CDs or anything. You can't really trade those in.
Right.
There's
I mean,
a
that's
lot-
something that we deal with now. Basically, I think there's not a lot of negative press because a lot of things that we deal with now is what's going to be included in PlayStation 4 anyway.
What they brought the thunder. They said, hey, you want it? This is what we're going to do. You got it, and just kept doing it, giving and giving and giving, and whether it's a free game here and there, or get PlayStation Plus with us, and you get 3 games right now, and you start buying things on your phone.
Right.
It's just they're trying to make everybody happy, and who hates that,
Before I get to my point, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited for. I mean, they do have some really pretty cool, exclusives, and actually one that they haven't even talked about too much that I was kind of surprised about was DC Universe Online. They're actually going to be porting it over from the PlayStation 3 over to the PlayStation 4, so I think that's
That's
kind
kind of interesting. Are they going to like add graphical enhancement or?
I don't think they've said, but yeah, I think that's interesting. That's one of the. I think that's so far the only game that you could be able to play from, the PlayStation.
Has it
3
been
over
that big?
Well, I think once they bring Gaikai over, I think this was mentioned that you'll be able to play something like your old PS3 games and
Right.
stuff like that. So
I think they mentioned something like that. Like, did they mention anything about PlayStation N games that you downloaded there that you can bring over?
I don't think so.
one thing I
think
did
they
love,
did. I think they did that for a reason.
one thing I did love is the whole integration with the Vita, because and a lot of people don't have Vitas, but this is another reason to get one. Like, hey, Nintendo had that thing. Now you can get the Vita and do the same thing with that and take it with you.
It's developer based though. It depends on the developer.
But they're making all the developers that make it for like the games on the PlayStation 4 has to work on the Vita.
Right.
So that's great.
Right.
I mean, especially if you have a Vita you want to play in the other room. I mean,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
where Nintendo's not doing that. They're not making
Right.
their developers
Mhm.
make it work on the Wii. They're asking them to, but I don't think they're making them. And PlayStation is making them.
That actually segues right into my point that it doesn't seem like PlayStation sees the PlayStation Vita too much as a standalone game console much anymore. They're kind of pushing it into that add-on, and I think they really dropped the ball in that regarding actually having unique games for PlayStation Vita. Hell, they didn't even mention anything about just having. Well, I think they did having indie games for the PS Vita. Did they mention anything?
Well, I mean, I know that Limbo came out and all that stuff.
No, I'm talking about new ones.
Oh.
Yeah, it seems like
Oh no,
they're
wait.
just,
There was that one with the snake.
Oh, that's right.
That was a Vita game.
okay. So that's like
that actually
one or
looked
two.
really fun to me.
Okay, so that's like 1 or 2. So it doesn't look like they're
They
going to
didn't
be backing.
concentrate on it. I mean, it was mainly about PS4. I mean,
Right.
they did concentrate.
But
on
showed
it's
up
a E3. It's a PlayStation E3. So not only do you have to talk about your PlayStation 4, but your PS Vita is still out there, like struggling. Okay.
Well, I mean, they in the very beginning of the conference, they showed the Vita games. They're going to bring the Walking Dead Telltales, to the PlayStation Vita. They're going to bring. I don't know. they
I'm
showed a
sure
few
PlayStation
others.
Vita players have already played that game.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Well,
they've already.
That's true. I have.
You see.
The big thing is that they're putting all the episodes together, but then it's also going to include the new episode.
The 400 days.
Yeah, the 400 days. So that's really cool.
Okay. Well, to wrap it up, I think they need to focus more on the PlayStation Vita, but it seems like they're going to make it kind of a side.
I think really that, I mean, I don't think they've lost their focus on it, but I feel that presentation was mainly about the new console, where it's like they didn't really want to take away from,
Take away
Xbox
from
really
that
doesn't,
fire.
like Xbox didn't talk about smart glass really,
Well, that's true.
and it's
Okay.
still there.
That's a good point.
And somebody came out with a slate or something
Right.
like that on there.
they made every effort not to mention Windows 8. During
Yeah,
that
they didn't even mention Kinect. They didn't mention Kinect, so I can forgive PlayStation for not mentioning, the Vita as much as they should have.
And
So.
to tell you the truth, I really don't care about the Vita that much. I mean, that's one thing I like about the Xbox was the smart glass. Everybody has a smartphone or a tablet or something.
Right.
So I mean, it's easily accessible.
But
So
I have a feeling that the Vita though will come more into play subtly, because wouldn't it be nice to play this from
I
my
agree.
bed?
That makes sense.
And you know, $250, it's a bit steep, but I have a feeling they'll bring the price down.
Yeah, you have like a $250 remote control.
Yeah.
You know? All right. Well, that ends part 2. We just completed talking about the PlayStation 4 E3 conference. Now we're going to talk about the very flamboyant Nintendo conference. I'm just joking. You can go see it at Nintendo Direct in our part 3. And along with that, we're going to talk about a lot of the games and go more in depth. Click on part 3, and we'll see you soon.